Welcome to the Movies of the Damned podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here as always with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please check out our Facebook page and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at Damned Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing David Fincher's 1992 film, Alien 3. The movie opens as an escape pod containing Ellen Ripley, Hicks, Newt, and android Bishop crash lands on a penal colony planet inhabited only by male inmates. Scans of the cryotubes before the crash shows a queen facehugger attached to one unknown member, later learned to be Ripley. Ripley is the only person to survive the ordeal, and soon after the crash, the facehugger implants an alien in a local dog. As the alien grows, it begins killing people one by one. As the remaining few formulate a plan to kill it, Ripley realizes she has a queen embryo growing inside her and decides that she must also die. They are eventually able to kill the alien using molten metal and sprinklers, and scientists then arrive in the hopes of operating on Ripley to remove the embryo to study it. Realizing the potential dangers to the human race, Ripley instead throws herself into a furnace, just as the infant queen bursts from her stomach, killing them both. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Okay, so this film was directed by David Fincher. David Fincher...
I believe this was his directorial debut. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no, that's fine. And after this, he did Seven, and he did Fight Club, and he's done other movies. But Seven and Fight Club, probably top 10 or top 100 favorite films of mine of all time. Like, they're way up there. So
I can't argue with that. They're fantastic films.
I love them.
And even though this is a podcast on more horror movies,
yeah,
those are two films we probably will discuss anyways.
We'll do whatever we want, won't we?
Yeah.
Well, directed by the audience as well. That being said, I didn't want to talk about this movie. I didn't want to watch it again. I watched it a long time ago because I was a huge fan of the Alien franchise. I even watched, Alien Resurrection. And I don't want to talk about that movie either, but we might have to talk about that one because
we're going down that path.
It seems to be that seems to be the way that we're going, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm also not unhappy about it because this is also fun, right? So that doesn't really matter to me too much. However, watching it again just reaffirmed why I didn't like it in the first place.
So one of the things that really caught me, John, and you might have no memory of this because it would have been when it first came out. I do our kind of like movie posters on Twitter and Instagram, kind of throwing our faces on the posters.
Yeah.
And the first poster I came across for Alien 3 had one of the worst taglines that I've ever seen before. Do you have any idea what the tagline is?
No.
3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror. Alien 3.
Oh my god.
Does that not just make you want to throw up in your mouth?
I don't even know why. Why are they doing that? Why'd they do that?
Like, that is so ridiculous.
I know. What was like the first Alien in space? No one can hear you scream. Gold.
Yeah.
Right. Gold.
But I just saw that. As soon as I saw that just made me chuckle. And we'd had our previous conversations about your dislike of this movie, and I thought you would love that tidbit. So I ended up writing that down. Just I needed to see your reaction to
it. I'm annoyed by it, obviously, because it's like they had great writing for the first 2 films, and then all of a sudden they said, you know what, I'm gonna write while I'm sleeping, or I'm gonna write and not pay attention to what I write. Maybe I'll just do some, mood writing. Like they just lost the ability to do a coherent narrative.
And so the reason why the finished product here didn't turn out even close to the standard of the first 2 films has a lot to do with the production, and this has been described from the reading I did as production hell. So David Fincher himself has disowned the film, blaming the problems with the film on studio interference and unrealistic deadlines. So when they were trying to put this thing together, as I said, it was production hell. Multiple scripts, multiple directors. All these directors and screenwriters were either fired at one point or quit at another. Some versions of the script for Alien 3 had Ripley in it. Some didn't have her in it and just had her kind of as a brief cameo where they were going to kind of make 2 films back to back, Alien 3 and Alien 4. And Hicks was going to be kind of the main actor
in
Alien 3.
Yeah.
Ripley was going to make a cameo and then kind of take over for Alien 4, and they were going to kind of shoot both back to back, but then that got thrown out. By the time filming started, they were already in the hole $7 million.
I don't know why.
And didn't have a finished script. As filming began, they didn't have a finished script, and so eventually the producers ended up stepping into the screenwriting and kind of, I talked about all those different scripts they had, kind of mismatching them together to kind of come up with a finished script here. So no wonder it turned out the way it did.
Of course, too many hands in the pot, obviously. And is that normal? Is that normal to do this to such a popular franchise, not be ready to start filming when you're supposed to, like, not to be ready to have everything in place before you start filming? Like, why wouldn't you, why would it be a good idea to you or to anyone to be like, yeah, I'm going to start filming this, but script's not ready. We'll figure it out as we go along.
What I think happened, and I can't put myself in those meetings that happened at the studio, but what I think happened is they said, we want this released on such and such a date. And they started well with enough time, but then as the script started coming in and they're like, oh, we don't like that, let's go with another one, they just kind of ran out of time and they were unwilling to budge on that release date. And what's actually really interesting is one of the scripts that was written, which is in the kind of the alien folklore, like the real hardcore fans like this script the best. And it was a script by a man by the name of William Gibson. And his version of the script was actually turned into a 5-part comic adaptation that came out in 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And they actually released the full kind of, I would say, reenacted script with some of the original actors in 2019 on Audible.
Okay.
And so the people who really love the Alien franchise say this should have been the way that they should have gone with Alien 3.
Yeah.
So,
and here's my problem with that whole thing. It's like, so you got these people just, they're looking short. They're looking at the short gain, right? They're not looking long term down the road. It's stupid to me. So like, okay, well, we'll make a crap ton of money maybe on the box office because of the name, but then you're gonna lose out on movie buys later. Like I didn't buy this. My son did because it became part of a collection. But I didn't buy this movie, and I wouldn't buy this movie. I'd buy the first two in a heartbeat, no problem. Blu-ray. If later on down the road it comes out, because they always keep changing the format, 4K or 3D or whatever, I'm gonna buy those because they're great movies. But I'll never buy this movie. And so they're not thinking long term. The product is what counts. You need to put a good product out. You put a shoddy product out, and it gets reflected later on. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, and again, John, all I can say is, and I agree with everything you just said, but I just think that the head of the studio said, we want it released on this date, and they were probably worried about losing their job if it didn't happen. But because of that, and I completely agree with you, it kind of ruined the franchise a little bit. Because, yeah, they might make some money on this movie, like you said, but then people will be like, oh, this is garbage, I'm not going to see the next one.
I guarantee if they put out a good Alien 3, there would have been a lot more people interested to see Alien Resurrection or Alien 4. Like, Alien Resurrection was junk too. But people wanted to see Alien 3. Like, this movie was so hyped. I remember all the media about this. Like, they're talking about,
were they talking about 3 times the suspense?
No.
3 times the danger, 3 times the terror.
Well, they're talking about it's on a penal colony and she's the only woman there, and they're talking about her shaving her head and how it was a big deal back in the day.
For sure it was.
Right. So yeah, so like they were hyping this up really well, and a lot of people were interested in it because you had Alien and then Aliens, like 2 awesome movie, and then so you're expecting something. You're expecting not normally lightning doesn't hit twice, but it did with Aliens, right? So you're expecting maybe not that same standard, but you're expecting that to be rewarded for your fanship, right, or your loyalty, right, to the product, and then they do that to you, like
and everything that could have gone wrong did.
Yeah, and I'm not like upset with anyone in particular. I just really think if you invest in the product, you'll always reap the reward long term. If you just throw a shoddy product, it's gonna be bad for you in the long term.
I'm not upset with David Fincher.
Absolutely not.
But I kind of agree with what he kind of said. And
no, I don't like.
From everything I read, it sounds like the studio interfered too much, and it was an unrealistic deadline because everything was happening, including when they started filming. The cinematographer came down with Parkinson's 2 weeks in and had to quit.
Oh my God! That's
so like,
terrible.
what other problems can you have? You don't have a finished script.
Yeah.
You're already $7 million in the hole.
Yeah.
Your cinematographer quits.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable what's going on.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, he must have felt pressure to sign on to this, right?
Well, this, as I said, it was his debut movie.
Yeah, so it's like,
he'd
here's your
only
shot.
directed music videos before this.
Yeah, so they're like, here's your shot. You got to take it. So he felt cornered or pressured. I don't know. I'm not David Fincher, right? But at the end of it all, right? So it's like, for me, don't badmouth your employer, right? So you know what? Like, they paid you money to make this movie. They maybe made it very difficult for you to do so. But don't badmouth your employer, right? Like,
And the thing is, John, he is still upset about it.
So
in that set that you're talking about that Ethan bought, where he has all the movies, and all the directors have come back to do commentary, except for him, he's refused.
Yeah, and that's fair. He can be upset, but just don't. In my opinion, anyways, I don't think it's very professional to publicize it.
No,
that's just me.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know,
you want the captain to go down with the ship, maybe.
Well, no, I don't want that. It's just don't badmouth your employer, right? Like, you put that product out there, you put your name on it, right? Like, I don't know what to say. Like, there is, I understand, like, it's your first movie, and it's a big deal to you. Like, maybe you couldn't walk away, or maybe you couldn't deal with that, right? But it's like you didn't badmouth it at the pre-release. You didn't badmouth it like during its release, but you waited years later on to badmouth it. Like, just let it go.
I couldn't tell you exactly when he said it.
Just let it go, right? Like, because like, look what he can do. 7. Like, come on, that's amazing. And then Fight Club, like, the guy's a great freaking director, right?
And I'm
just
so happy
that
that he didn't get buried with this film.
Oh,
he
yeah,
was able
for sure.
to go on to do that other stuff.
Okay, let's talk about the plot now. We're talking about all the drama and all that stuff going
Okay, the
on.
plot.
Let's go with it.
The first thing that upset me was Aliens. Loved that film.
Mm-hmm.
And what really hurt me right away is that Hicks, Bishop, and Newt work so hard to survive in Aliens. And then just right away they're dead.
Yeah.
And you know who else was upset by this?
Everyone?
Yeah, everyone. James Cameron in particular, though, he said that the decision to just kill them off at the beginning was a slap into the face to him and all the fans of Aliens.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's more of, it was a decision. It was a poor decision, but it's because of the script that they put together and that they were unwilling to polish it or do the right thing. They had to get to that point where Ripley was once again on her own. Ripley was once again not being believed. Ripley, you know what I mean? Like, they, for whatever reason, they decided to go back to the slow burn formula of the first one, but without the actual suspense or the good writing.
No, and I agree with you. And just one more thing. The actor who plays Hicks was so upset about it.
Yeah.
That he demanded and received almost as much money as Aliens for the fact that they used his likeness in this movie.
Oh, really?
So he didn't even act in it, and he got paid the same. Having said that, maybe that buries you as an actor when you do something like that to a studio, but a lot of people were upset about this.
Yeah, I know, but he didn't really show up too much after that, and I always did wonder why, right? Because Michael Biehn, he was in Terminator. He's awesome. Like, I really like him, man. He was a good actor. He did great in Aliens. Like, he's fun to watch.
So maybe he kind of steward himself with that, where like word gets out. It's like, if this guy, you do something where this guy doesn't like, he might come after you a little bit.
Oh, that's very interesting, right? Or it's just so, people know each other and they'll just unprofessionally badmouth each other for whatever, right? Or some people have egos that get in the way, and it's just like, well, you doing this to me, and then they do that. Like, it'd be better if everyone could just act professional and go like, okay, is this guy a good actor? Yes. Will he be a good fit for the film? Yes. Does he have a good attitude? Does he show up every day? Yes. Good. You're in. Right? Like, just
fair enough.
Pretty simple, right? So go plot.
The dog getting infected right away.
Yeah.
Were you confused by that at all? Like, I guess there's like, they kind of show the facehugger kind of going towards the dog a little bit, but then it's just kind of like a few scenes later, the dog is just infected.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, they had to progress the movie forward, right? So they had a lot of problems with it. It seemed that, okay, so they couldn't do what they did in the first one, right? Where someone there got a facehugger attached to them and they didn't know what was going on. Because Ripley did know what was going on. She knew what that alien meant, right? So they couldn't have that in the movie because later on they're going to have Ripley not be believed, right? So it's interesting what they did. So they got the dog infected, and and the first person who got killed was the dog owner.
Yeah.
So anyone that would miss the dog or care about the dog or know anything about the dog was also gone. So then they shut down that avenue of information, which, I also have a problem with, because that alien did not look like any dog. When he stuck his head down there, goes, "Hey, Spike, is that you?" That did not look like any dog. It might, we were spoiled. I was watching it on Blu-ray, so it might have been darker in the theater at the time, or whatever the case may be. But there's no way that looked like a freaking dog.
Now, was this the kill where the guy kind of falls into the fan?
Yes.
Okay, and I did like some things about this movie. I thought that was a cool kill. That kind of reminded me Indiana Jones-ish.
Yeah, I didn't care.
It didn't do anything for you?
Well, I knew what the device was for, right? So
Yeah,
they had the dog to be infected because a dog can't complain, right? The dog can't tell anyone an alien was strapped to its face. I am concerned about the timeline, because when you remember the first film, the face hugger was on there for quite a bit.
I know, and that's why I brought up initially.
Yeah.
It's like, how did the dog get infected? And again, they kind of show a little bit right after the crash that the face hugger is going towards the dog, but then that's it.
They seem to like to forget all of that stuff, right? So it's like in the first film, like, it was on that guy's face for a while. They had there's some issues with it, right? Like, I don't know, they didn't really actually. The reason why they can get away with it is they didn't really actually state a time. They didn't say that was on his face for a day. They didn't say anything like that,
Yeah,
right?
it didn't, like when Ripley kind of woke up in that infirmary.
Yeah,
it didn't say like 3 days later.
Yeah,
4
it
days
didn't do
later.
any of that stuff,
Yeah.
right? So like they can get away with that stuff, and that's fine. Or like with how long it took for it to be on the dog's face, right? They can get away with that stuff, but still, you got a sense from the other films it was longer, right? So it wasn't like that. I felt cheated for sure.
I just thought you might have liked the fan scene because it kind of reminded me a little of the wood chipper.
No, see, the wood chipper was hilarious.
Yeah, well, this
right?
wasn't hilarious, but I just think, what a way to go! Oh my gosh, like, it makes me cringe. No matter how many times I see that type of death, I'm like, I don't want to go that way.
No, I look at that as like, if I wouldn't want to go leg first.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Any other way is instantaneous, fine,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Leg first, no way, right? Because it's chopping you up as you get fed into it.
No, fair enough. But again, John, I gotta say, I did like a couple things about it. The one thing I did like, and I thought it was kind of a cool scene, is when they kind of do the autopsies on Newt and Hicks. They realize they're not infected, and then they kind of do like a funeral eulogy for them.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of cool that as they're kind of doing the funeral eulogy, that's when the dog is, I want to say, giving birth to the alien.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of talking about that. I think there was a line in the eulogy, something like, as one person goes, new life is born, and like just as the alien gets born, and like perhaps that's cliche a little bit. I thought it was kind of cool, and it was a well done kind of way to transition there.
Okay, so there were a lot of well done things in this because David Fincher directed it.
Yes.
Right? That is, you could tell from his shots, just like, it looks so familiar to me. Like, he likes to do work with widescreen, so you'll see a lot more of the picture with the character kind of either off center or whatever. He does that a lot, and it's very effective. It draws you into the scene, right? It makes you part of the scene. So I like that. So he does that stuff, and I don't know if he was part of that editing process where he meshed all that together, but that was a good sequence. But we come back to the problem that the storyline's junk. So.
Yeah. So he's doing. Honestly, I think he's doing the best he can.
Absolutely,
with
and he
the
does. And he
script
does
that he
great.
had, right?
Yeah, and he, like, a lot of the visuals were really good. Like, remember, like near the end where the alien was coming after that guy just before they pulled the lead on him.
Yes.
And it has all the steam coming up, and you just see the top of its head moving along through the steam. I thought that was amazing. That looked so good. That was such a very good visual.
I honestly didn't predict that the alien was going to survive that molten metal.
Oh, I did.
Oh, you knew he was coming out of
Well,
there?
it has acid for blood.
Oh, see, that didn't even cross my mind. I'm just like, oh, they
I'm
got
like,
him.
when they're, pour more lead on it. Like, I remember when I was watching it the first time going, it has acid for blood. Like, what's going to be hotter than that stuff that melts through ships?
No, fair enough, right? But then that was a cool scene when she kind of gets to the sprinklers.
Yeah.
And it kind of shatters, and that was a cool visual
Yeah,
too.
no, that was a good visual. It was a good visual.
Can I tell you about the scene that upset me the most in this movie?
Go for it.
Ripley's kind of in the infirmary, and she kind of gets faced with the new alien for the first time.
Yeah.
And she cowers in a corner.
Yeah.
When have we ever seen Ripley cower before?
So I didn't really have any problem with that at all.
You
Like,
were okay. You thought that was
she
in
had
line
no
with
weapons.
but you thought that was in line with her character?
She
I've
had
seen
no
I've seen her
weapons.
do nothing but fight and survive so far, and she
Yeah.
kind of just submitted.
Every time that she's fought and survived, she either had a flamethrower from the first movie, she had a machine gun, like an assault rifle from Aliens, and a flamethrower and grenade launcher, and she had like a robot apparatus thing that she fought with. Any other time, she ran with everyone else.
But she didn't run this time. She
well,
submitted.
well, she was in the corner.
She submitted, man,
Yeah.
and I had a problem with that.
I didn't have a problem.
I don't think that's who she is.
I didn't have a problem with. Oh, we can talk about that, but about that aspect, I didn't have a problem with that at all. She's pinned in the corner. She had nowhere to go. Like, what's she gonna do? What's she gonna do?
And
she had no weapons.
And I understand why they did that, because it led her to the realization
that it won't kill her.
there's a reason why it's
Yeah.
not killing her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I actually had a problem with is, the doctor, asking her, you know more about this than you're telling me. I'm not stupid. Blah blah blah. Why aren't you telling me? And then she's like, hey, you want to do it?
Yeah, a romance just happens out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, just to distract him from asking a question. Like Ripley from the other films would have been like, hey man, I'm not telling you, beat it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna keep asking me? I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the Ripley I know. Like this was like, why would she even do that? Like who cares? Is he gonna, if she doesn't tell him, is he gonna rape her? Like what was she worried about? Like what does she even need to do that for? I was really annoyed with that. Like so annoyed.
And speaking of that, how about that crazy kind of attempted rape scene? Like that was offhand. Like, and
Well-
and like someone again. So, and then someone had to come and save her, which really, like, Ripley doesn't get saved. Like, she does the saving.
Okay.
Now, there
well,
was a bunch of guys. I get that.
Yeah.
But still, it's just like, it almost like brings her down a peg, because she's always been the one in all these other movies that goes and saves people. She's like the strongest figure. And I've given now 2 examples, one where she needed to be saved and one where she cowered. That's not Ripley to me.
Well, my main problem was that the sex of distraction thing for Ripley. Her being held down by 5 guys and that happening to her, like that can happen to anyone.
Oh, of course it can. Of course
right?
it can.
So like it, you know what I mean? So I don't actually have a problem with that. And you know what? And you knew that was going to happen. She's the only female on a planet full of criminals. You knew there was going to be a
and
rape
they're all
scene.
convicted of like heinous crimes, like it's like
Well,
violent crimes, murder,
Do you
rape,
remember?
stuff like that.
I guess I don't think you would remember. But remember back at that time, they were talking about the men with YY chromosomes.
Yeah.
They're supposedly extra violent, and there's no.
They're like prone to violence. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no actual proof for that. There's no scientific basis for that. But at that time, that was some of what the research was actually saying.
Yeah.
But nowadays we know that those genes might not even express themselves or undetectable. Like it's not a guarantee you're a bad person because you have YY chromosome. Is silly, right? So, but that was another thing that they tried to do to hype up the movie, right? Like a whole planet full of people with YY chromosomes, right?
Yeah.
Extra violent, extra homicidal. So when you look at it that way, they're going to try to kill. There's going to be that rape scene. So I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with her offering to give it up just to distract someone from asking her a question. I really have a problem with that. And then also, I also have a problem with one. Why was her incubation period so slow? It seemed like the alien didn't come out of her for a long time. Like, the one guy, it fell off his face in the first film, and then within dinner time later that day, it was popping out of his chest.
Yeah.
Right? I don't get it. Like,
And so even if you want to say that the face hugger attached itself to Ripley like an instant before landing,
Yeah.
it still attached itself to the dog after that.
Yeah.
And the dog had a shorter incubation period, right? So that is you know what? I didn't think of that, but what you're saying makes perfect sense.
well, I was annoyed with that, right? When I was watching, like, why is this taking so long? And then
Is it an extra long incubation period since it's the queen? That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, but and that's another thing I have a problem with. So, how do you know it's a queen? Like, how does she know it's a queen? Just from looking at an MRI picture? And
that's a good point. And so the same face hugger can implant a queen on one person and not a queen on another?
Or even that, like, say this egg where the face hugger came from was from that queen from Aliens that got on their ship, right? Like, she might have laid that pod in there when it was hiding on the ship when it came up, right? Fine, cool. But that alien laid those pods to infect other people. So it's not going to lay. For me, it's just like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't like, so that pod just happened to be a queen. Like I don't even know. Like why? Why is that important? Like why do you got to throw that in there? It makes it double more badass. Like I don't get it. So while I do get it, it's like they're trying to make it seem like, okay, well, if they're trying to make Ripley's suicide make more sense, because if this gets away, then all of human race is over with, right?
Yeah.
So I do get that, but it's like, you need to have something like, okay, where it's like, there's an explanation for it, right? Like there should be some reasoning for this other than we need to fill the story gap. Like I don't like that. I felt cheated, right? There's no way you could. And once again, like, it comes back to, how the hell does she know it's a queen?
No, fair enough, right?
Right? Oh, look, I can tell it's a queen. How can you tell that? Like there's no reason. There's nothing in the previous movies that said. That showed what's a queen embryo versus another one, and how she would be able to know
how you
that.
can determine that, right? And it wasn't like because the person who was like helping her do the scan, it wasn't like they were a doctor or anything.
No.
That.
And the only one that I would have been fine with saying it would have been Bishop, right? Because he studied the hell out of those things in Aliens, but he didn't. So I'm like, lame. Why, right?
The one thing I will say though is I did like the ending. I did think that was a fitting end for the Ripley character, that she is so tough, so strong, such a great character that she is willing to sacrifice herself for the betterment of the human race. So I like that as an end for her character.
Yes, that's absolutely her character. She would do that. She makes the tough decisions and she follows through for like 100%. The alien bursts out of her chest though, and she grabs it. And then, closes her eyes and falls into the fire. I'm like, really? Everyone else that it bursts out of, it's a very painful experience. And since it goes through their heart, they're instantly dead.
Yeah, where she looked almost peaceful, right?
Yeah, and she held on to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is stupid. I did like how it looked like she fell into the same place where they dumped Hicks and Newt.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought that was cool, right? She ends up in the same spot as they did. It's kind of like the come full circle thing. But that stuff is like, she grabs a hold of it. What? Stupid. She didn't even need to, right? Like, how far can this thing jump? Right?
And at that point, they're above this furnace, so you would be like burning up before you even hit the flames.
Absolutely.
Above it, right?
Right. So, and then here's another thing I didn't like. So the first two films, it was practical special effects, right? All practical special effects.
I thought you were gonna bring this up.
The CGI was terrible, man. It made it look. It just looked terrible to me.
Especially since it was CGI sometimes and practical sometimes.
Yeah.
And so you could really tell the difference as a viewer.
The practical looked beautiful, and then you have the CGI stuff, and you're like, what? It looks like someone drew it on, like with their hand. It's like someone just started to draw on the film.
Especially when you compare it to the CGI now.
Oh, I know. And you know what? And that's a fair point, right? But once again, if it doesn't look right, don't use it. The product is very important.
I think you have to go one way or the other. Either all CGI or all practical. But when you mix it back and forth like that, you can really notice the difference.
I don't know about that, because you could see in Spider-Man, it's like CGI and practical, right? Like you have him in a suit and then you have him flying through the air. They're two different things, but they look good, right? But I just think it's more like with that one, I don't think. So let's look at James Cameron, for example, right? I read about some stuff about him because he's very interesting to me. So he wrote Avatar probably 15, 20 years before he filmed it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so he had it on the back burner waiting for the technology to catch up.
Oh.
And when it wasn't catching up fast enough, he helped develop and produce that technology to do that. So
very cool.
He waited for it to be right before he put it together.
There was no waiting in this film.
No, right? So the CGI wasn't ready in this film, and they still went ahead with it. And it was very disappointing to me. It pulled me right out. I'm like, oh, now they threw in a cartoon character. That's, you know what I mean? It pulled me right out of the film.
And it did kind of look like a cartoon character. And honestly, John, you didn't like this film. The critics didn't like this film. Mm-hmm. Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 42.
Yeah.
The first two were in the high 90s. Audience score, 47.
Yeah.
And the first one was 94. However, it was nominated for an Oscar, and this is going to upset you. Best visual effects.
What the hell?
for the cartoon character.
Oh my god.
Budget, way bigger budget than the first two. Its budget was 50 to 55 million,
Yeah.
whereas the first one was about 10, second one was 18.
Yeah.
Box office, they considered it a bit of a flop in the US. It only made about 55 million, but it did do well internationally, so it did bring in just under 160 million dollars, which means it did make its money back and more, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they felt there was more money to be made. Alien Resurrection,
Yeah.
the Prometheus, I can't even say it right.
Prometheus.
Yeah, there you go. Alien versus Predator. So they felt like even though this movie could have made it for some people, I don't want to see anymore, they still went more with it with the movie company.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, I didn't mind Alien versus Predator because, you know what, I knew what I was getting into. I was getting to a campy film that was going to be silly and it's going to have humans in the middle, but I know what I was getting into, so if I went to see it, it was my own fault for what I saw, right? But you know, sometimes you're in the mood for that fun stuff, right? And that's light and it's not very there's no investment into it.
It's
really.
like when you're going into a horror comedy, right?
Yeah, right. So there's just not the same level of investment in it, right? But the main franchises, like, come on, man. Why would you do that?
I don't have a ton of great things to say about this movie. One comment that I wrote down at the end is it felt long.
Mm-hmm.
I became very disinterested in the film.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a couple good lines. Like, do you remember when they're kind of doing the I want to call it they're putting their plan in place to kill the alien, and the one guy has scissors.
Yeah.
And the other guy kind of yells at him, "You're going to kill someone holding the scissors that way." Where, like, most people have already died from the alien, right? But he's, like, scolding him on how to properly hold the scissors. So, like, there was some good stuff, some good shots, a couple good lines there. But overall, this wasn't great. I personally would not give this a 42. I'd be lower than that. I might be in the 20s.
Man, I'm like, I don't even know. I like 10.
Yeah, no.
Like I so like and I want to say that a lot of that is in large part due to my disappointment with it, which is not fair to the film, because I should look at it and go, okay, what was this movie trying to do? Did it accomplish that? Was it effective? Right? So I should be looking at it in those terms, but you can't help. Look, I can't help compare it to the first two.
No, but John, like, I think you're being hard on yourself here. If there hadn't been an Alien or Aliens and this was a standalone film, I don't think that the critics would have liked it more. I don't think you would have liked it more.
No, I wouldn't have. No, that's fair.
So that's just it right there. Well, buddy, anything else to add?
Nope.
Well, please check out our Facebook page and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers, and his new novella, Balance, is also available on Amazon. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for listening. It's great to hear from you guys when you reach out. We really appreciate it. If you have a few seconds, whatever platform you're listening on, if you just give us a rating, that'd be awesome. It really helps us out. And my books are doing really well, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about those. Why don't you give those a read, give them a shot, and reach out to us, all that good stuff. Just have a great week and be kind to everyone.